Hello, welcome to the G.I. Joe New News Classified Reviews. My name is David T. Allen, or if you would like, Super Dave 817. If you would like to see more of this content, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification button for future videos. Thank you and enjoy. Hello, welcome to another episode of the G.I. Joe New News Classified Review. I'm David T. Allen, and we are here to talk about my good friend Sergeant Slaughter, number 53, with the change in packaging and a lot of differences with this. I have a lot to go over with this figure and this character and this individual because Sergeant Slaughter is a real person, the first real person that was introduced into G.I. Joe in the 1980s with the introduction of Sergeant Slaughter as the very first real individual, real person from the real world that was created for a toy line. It started a new trend with G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero. I will go into a little bit of that in a little while. So this is going to be a very unique review on that. But let's go to the books first. The history. We're going to start with Dan Klingensmith's book, Creating the History of Creating G.I. Joe. Start with that. And that is going to be volume 13. So this will give you an idea how large of a series this book series is. There are 15 volumes that Dan has created. Creating G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, Volume 13. The comprehensive history on the creation of the G.I. Joe brand. And it really covers quite a lot of stuff. But we're talking about Sergeant Slaughter, and this is the Sergeant Slaughter page. You can see there's the wrestling Sergeant Slaughter. There's his figure over there. There's his turnaround for that figure. And so there may be a little bit of a odd thing there where there are two different Sergeant Slaughters on that page because the other Sergeant Slaughter was offered with the Triple T tank. And there's the turnaround and the page for that. So we're going to go into that as well. But we did not get a Sergeant Slaughter Triple T tank yet. Let's just say that. All right, so this version here that's on my left, I should say, over here, is the wrestling version. That was a mail away. First off, one of the few mail away figures that was an original figure. We got also a Starduster, Steel Core figure, and several figures after this Sergeant Slaughter. But Sergeant Slaughter is the first mail away that was a real person. And this version differs from this version that came with our Triple T. And I will showcase both versions before we get to our classified figure because there's a reason for that. All right, let's go into a little bit of the history. It says Sergeant Slaughter, alternate names, and a year release 1986, designed by Ron Rudat. Of course, Ron Rudat did the design. He did the first 7 years, most of the figures and vehicle drivers, as the designer of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. Said, final representation design of Sergeant Slaughter. Notice the eagle, globe, and anchor emblem on his campaign hat that was later replaced with his enlisted rank of staff sergeant. So his hat has two different versions. All right. Then, in a memo dated May 9th, 1985. It was announced that Sergeant Slaughter was going to be featured as a promotional figure. Ron was given the project and used some reference photos provided by the WWF to create his design. Let's see, 1986. Across America, stormed the stores to buy specifically marked Joe packages and collect in-package Sergeant Slaughter proof of purchase certificates to obtain a free Sergeant Slaughter action figure. The Sergeant promotion, which lasted from January 1986 through January 1987, helped record-breaking sales for the line. Helped generate record-breaking sales for the line, with over 300,000 Sergeant Slaughter figures sent to eager Joe fans. Way to go, Sarge. And so on there as well, you can see there's that certificate for the Sergeant Slaughter figure there. And then you can see that figure over there that's going to differ from the mail-away figure. Bye-bye world. Thank you for joining us tonight on our episode of review of Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter is one of the coolest guys I have met so far. Yes, he is really genuinely a really nice person and really good ambassador for the G.I. Joe brand, and a good ambassador as far as children go, and going to schools and being a representative of the armed services and so on and so forth. Even though I will say Sergeant Slaughter never actually served in the armed services. That was a character he played as a wrestler, and a character he portrayed as far as the G.I. Joe brand for a toy brand. So he was never actually in the armed forces. All right. So there's a whole bunch of turnarounds on this page here for Sergeant Slaughter. I don't know if you guys can see some of those turnarounds there, and then over there. And then on the next page, we get the Triple T tank. Triple T tank, and it doesn't really look like the Triple T tank. The one up there in the corner does, that little teeny one up there. And let's see what they had to say about the Triple T tank. It says, alternate names, NA, year release 1986, designed by Ron Rudat. When designing the Triple T tank, Ron went through several ideations when determining what the final version would resemble. The idea was to put Sergeant Slaughter in a vehicle that would represent his strength and power. And so they did. So that's the Triple T tank, and that's Sergeant Slaughter. Let's move on to Carson Metaxas series of books, and that is Collecting the Art of G.I. Joe, Volume 3, 1986 through 1987, by Carson and Metaxas and 3D Joes. There you go. So we have Sergeant Slaughter and the Triple T tank, because there is no art for the actual regular Sergeant Slaughter. And that was a mail away. Other than that promotional piece that I showed you, there's no other Sergeant Slaughter up until this point that I could show you artwork for. There will be Sergeant Slaughters after this, and I will show you some artwork for those when we get to those. But that was all the artwork that was up until 1986 for Sergeant Slaughter. So that's why it's only the Triple T and Sergeant Slaughter. And so then Sergeant Slaughter makes his first appearance in Real American Hero in issue 48 by Larry Hama in the 1980s. Let's see. Sergeant Slaughter, I believe he was a drill sergeant, and there was somebody that was infiltrating the Joe headquarters, and Sergeant Slaughter was doing his work, and he had to come across this infiltrator in the process, and he did something really interesting with him. So there he is, showing up at the G.I. Joe pit right there on this corner. And then let's see. Then he ends up taking out our infiltrator at some point. So there he is again, Sergeant Slaughter. And then he saves the Joes because he ends up um, taking out the bad guy in the story. Sergeant Slaughter does in that page there. And so there we go. Sergeant Slaughter making the decision, takes them out, and he saves the Joes. So that's Sergeant Slaughter in Real American Hero. He does not make a lot of appearances in G.I. Joe comics over the years, just a couple. I, in fact, was talking to Larry Hama about it, and there may be a new appearance of Sergeant Slaughter coming up very shortly. So I wanted to showcase a couple things. Here's the Triple T. Like I said before, the Triple T, they have not made a classified version of this, right? And also, the the artist on this Sergeant Slaughter package was the artist Adam Riches. He's fairly well known in the comic book world and community, and this GI Joe community because he's a huge GI Joe fan. So we all know him. He's been to lots of conventions and stuff. He designed this package and made it in honor of Sergeant Slaughter and his heritage and legacy through wrestling and the GI Joe brand. So I was able to get him to sign that package right there. And I think I'm going to have Sergeant Slaughter sign it as well. Next time we get him at Joe Fest, I think I'm going to have him sign that because it would just make sense to have him sign it. I've met Sergeant Slaughter a dozen times over the years. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see my Facebook page picture is Sergeant Slaughter and Larry Hama. That was the first time, maybe the second or third time I met Sergeant Slaughter. And I've met him several other times. If you meet him, you can get a coin. You know, actually, I should just go get that coin real quick. Hold on just a sec. I'm going to go get that. So I think this is the coin here. The Sergeant Slaughter coin. If you get the Cobra Clutch, if you let Sergeant Slaughter put you in the Cobra Clutch, you will become an MVP of the Cobra Clutch, and he will give you a coin. There are several people that have had that Cobra Clutch done like dozen times, and they got about 12 coins from Sergeant Slaughter. I got the Cobra Clutch done. You did, Bobby World. Yeah, it's not that bad. You know, you just do a little acting. You have somebody take a picture of you. You look like you're being put into a sleeper hold or whatever from Sergeant Slaughter. But it's not that bad. He's had it on old people, babies, you name it. It's not that bad. But I wanted to have one because I wanted to get a coin from Sergeant Slaughter, so I did it. But I've met him at Joe Fest, and he's going to be back at Joe Fest 2026 again. So if anybody's watching this and they would like to meet Sergeant Slaughter, he is one of the nicest, friendliest, outgoing people in the GI Joe world and community, and he's part of the family now at Joe Fest, and so we have him there every single year. And I was asked this year to MC the Sergeant Slaughter breakfast. He has a Sergeant Slaughter breakfast every year, and because I guess I work at Joe Fest as one of the management there, he liked the work that I was doing and my contributions to the community and so on. So he asked me to MC his panel, or his agent did, and I did. And then he said he would like me to do that every single year now. And I was like, okay, I can do that. Sergeant Slaughter, no problem. So it was really cool. And that's where I got this cool t-shirt from, was the breakfast this year, Sergeant Slaughter breakfast. And it's a really cool t-shirt. I like it. It says, and that's an order. Maggots. And that's an order, maggots. So that's fun. I got to MC his panel, and I can't say enough how wonderful Sergeant Slaughter is. He's really a tremendously nice guy. But let's get on to his classified figure. We're going to go into his designations, and then I'm going to talk about this art on this package by Adam Riches, because there's a little bit of history there through Hasbro. Let's see, what do we have? We have the 5-star. The 5 stars is leader. Sergeant Slaughter is a leader. He also has the big hand, which is hand-to-hand combat. Leader, hand-to-hand combat. He's got the weightlifting item there to do weightlifting. Let's see if that's on here. That might be like strength or something. Let's see. Yeah, it's that one's not on my list, but I believe it's strength. It's the weights, and then there's another little. It looks like a lighter with a slash through it, and I don't think I have that either. It might be drill sergeant. That might be what that is, possibly. Classified. Sergeant Slaughter's classified, and then the weight one, and so I'm guessing the weight one might be strength, and so there you go. And then you have leader, and you have hand-to-hand combat. So that's all the designations for Sergeant Slaughter on his package there. So there you go. And again, he's 53. Hey, Terrence, how's it going? Thank you for joining the chat. How many versions of Storm Shadow do you have? God, probably several hundred Storm Shadows. Why do you ask? That's an odd question. I have lots of G.I. Joe figures and lots of Storm Shadows. So yeah, there's tons. So then they changed the package up. So they did this cross-sell package. I showed it on some of the 2-packs that they've done recently. Sarge Collects. Thank you for joining the chat. You're somebody new in the chat. Thank you very much. Love G.I. Joe. Wow. I do too. You need a Storm Shadow. Well, which Storm Shadow do you need, Terrence? So let's look into this. So this is more of a cross-sell. It gives you all the accessories and everything that comes with him. Comes with his command cap and his whistle and several hands and stuff like that. And it shows him in action on that cross-sell. Sarge Collects. I'm a huge G.I. Joe collector. Oh, wow. Cool. Then you're on the right channel, because this is a G.I. Joe channel. We talk about G.I. Joe. I need the version 1. So you need either the vintage package, or you need, I think it was like 30 something. I think it was Storm Shadow version 1 was like 30. It might have been like 33 or 4, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Terrence, or the vintage package version. Those are the two version 1 Storm Shadows. Unless you're talking about vintage, the actual vintage version 1 Storm Shadow. I only have one of those. So there you go. Back to Sergeant Slaughter. So then let's get into this packaging a little bit. This is done by Adam Riches, like I said earlier, and he wanted to incorporate Sergeant Slaughter's long history, not only as um, a member of the GI Joe brand, as a inspired actual human being, but also his history of wrestling in the wrestling ring. Um, um, no, sorry, unfortunately not. They're very easy. You can get Storm Shadow. He was made for. He was one of the vintage version was made for 2 or 3 years. He's a very common figure. If you go to any local toy shows, let's see, Joe Fest, Assembly Required, Toylanta, Joelana, Kentuckiana. I'm not sure where you're at, Terrence. Those are all in the East. There's also the Boston Joe Show, DFW in Texas, and so on. So there are a lot of Joe shows you can go to through the year and get a lot of this stuff. Oh, you need it right now. Oh, I'm sorry. There's not much I can do with that right now. You can try to go to eBay maybe, or go to some of the Facebook groups, and there's a lot of sales they have on the Facebook GI Joe groups, and you can buy a lot of that stuff in those sales, those online sales and stuff like that, and they're through the Facebook groups. Um, Sarge collects. I remember that Sergeant Slaughter was being sold at Ollie's for cheap. We don't have Ollie's in California. Oh, you're in California, Sarge collects. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know Sergeant Slaughter was that common. I bought mine through Pulse, so I don't know. But if you need to get them, then there's opportunities to get them. Adam Riches explained during that breakfast that I was talking about that there's different elements of Sergeant Slaughter. There's real life wrestling Sergeant Slaughter. There's the toy. There's the drill sergeant. There's the comic book version, slightly not accurate. There's also the Sky Strikers in the eyes of his glasses on this package there, and you get the mustache and the cover, and that's an important part of Sergeant Slaughter. If you meet Sergeant Slaughter, he'll always have his cover on. And there was another Sergeant Slaughter figure, the next one, they have a variant version that has the cover off. And when he realized that the cover was off in the package, he had them stop and make a change, and they changed it so the cover was on, because Sergeant Slaughter always has his cover on in action. And so there's a variant of the next version of this Sergeant Slaughter that has the cover on. I think it's the Sergeant Slaughter's Marauders deluxe figure. There's two versions, one with a cover, one without a cover. So that was something that Sergeant Slaughter insisted, that if there's a figure, it has to have the cover. And so he's one of the nicest, coolest guys that you meet. So I recommend that you guys get a chance to go meet him, because I don't know how much longer he's going to be around, but he's up there. So this is 53. And he loves his Joe fans. He loves the G.I. Joe brand. He loves to be a ambassador to this toy brand. And so Hasbro has been doing figures now for a little while. They're on, I think, the fourth new Sergeant Slaughter figure that has come out since this one. He's the first, and now they've done 4 different ones, or the 4th different one was already ordered this summer. You could order it. It was with Mercer 2-pack. It was more with the desert camo. That was the 4th Sergeant Slaughter that was released through G.I. Joe Classified and Hasbro recently. Let's see. Sarge collects. Just subbed. I have to get going. we'll watch your lives next time. Hey, no problem. I appreciate it, Sarge Collects. I appreciate you joining the chat now and subbing. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much. So let's see. So he gets one of the lockers, number 52. It does not, and it has the the panel with the buttons there, and it says Sergeant Slaughter on there. So this is the first single figure that's not a deluxe, not a 2-pack, that has had the locker. So this is the new design of the packages with the new artwork on the packages, and that was the first figure to get that new design as a single figure. So then we oh, you know what I forgot to do before we get into this figure? I totally forgot to cover the vintage figures. So I'm going to put that right over there. I'm going to put my coin there. I wanted to cover the 2 vintage figures. I got a little bit sidetracked. So the 2 vintage figures. First, the one that was the mail away, which is the one with the wrestling design, had more of a wrestling deco, had the white on the belt. It had the red wrist bands, the little fluffy workout bands that they did in the 80s. And he's got USA on his tank top there. And he's got the brown cover with the Sergeant Slaughter designation there. He's also got the whistle. You can see the whistle right there. He's got the fatigues and the boots. He's got a couple of tampos on both sides of the boots there. And so that's version 1. That was the mail away, the one that was 300,000 figures that were ordered for this version of Sergeant Slaughter. And then we have the one that came with the triple T tank, that was the regular version. Does not have the USA. It does not have the white belt. Has more fatigues. Has a change in his tank top to black. So, like I said, it does not. They changed this slightly, and it's got. I think his arms are a little weird. That's weird. Huh. I'll have to look at that, but his arms are a little weird on that. So he's got the camouflage fatigues. He's got the green cover. So there are a lot of differences between this one and the other one. This one has silver glasses, and I think this one does too. He's got the sergeant designation on his cover there. He's got black boots. He does not have these stripes or the USA or anything like that on his fatigues. So there is a big difference between this one and that one. So there's your 2 versions of the vintage figure. Before we get into the classified figure, I jumped a little bit there. Sorry. I'll put him there. So we got both versions. So we have his locker. And let's see, we'll get all the cool stuff out of there. He's got a lot of stuff. He's got looks like his whistle and his baton there. He's got one of the G.I. Joe packages with the Cobra and G.I. Joe logo on there. He's got 2 more little packages there. A good friend of mine, Zazel, he's had the Cobra Clutch done like a dozen times, and he's a really cool guy. He's from Australia, and there's the Indicia and the Gobbledygook, the legal, and all that stuff. I'm gonna stick that back in there, and then he's got this big rifle that has some brown deco on it, a little bit of brown deco on there. Now, the vintage Sergeant Slaughter didn't have any of these things, the mail away or the vintage. He did have a baton, though. He did come with a baton. The one with the triple T came with a baton. All right, so I'm going to stick this aside for now, and then we're going to pull out Sergeant Slaughter here in the package there. Sergeant Slaughter. There. We're going to untie him. So let's see. If you're watching in the chat, we cover the G.I. Joe classified line, and we compare and contrast the vintage package and original figures, and we do the history, a little bit of a deep dive into every single figure and every single character. And so that's what we're doing. We've reached 53 now with the classified line, and we've done 3 vintage package figures. We've done the Fortnite Snake Eyes. We've done the 00 Snake Eyes so far in order of their release cadence. And so that has brought us now to Sergeant Slaughter, which is number 53. And so there you go. There's Sergeant Slaughter. And he has the Stars and Stripe package there. I'm going to just stick that aside over there. And we have Sergeant Slaughter with his a much larger buck, a much larger figure overall, one of the largest figures we've gotten to this point. Now this is closer to this version, not the USA mail away version, so it's going to be a lot closer. It's got a few homages to that one. It's got the white belt and the buckle, and I'm sure it's going to have his cover. We'll see what it has as far as its cover goes. It does not have the USA on there, but he definitely has that big ab crunch, the new head articulation there. He's got a really nice Sergeant Slaughter face print with the mustache and with his eyes and his chin. You can see that chin, so you got a really good representation of Sergeant Slaughter there. He's got the butterflied shoulders. He's got the calves there, the articulation, the double pinned elbows. He's got the wrist. He does not have the secondary wrist articulation. He's got the crotch articulation, the normal crotch and leg articulation there. He's got the thigh articulation in the 2 thighs. He's got the double pinned knees there. He does have the secondary ankle articulation and the foot rocker articulation. So he's got most of the primary articulation points except the secondary wrist articulation. Bobby World, let's see. I wouldn't mind seeing Sergeant Slaughter with the USA tank top. Well, you know, they're still making Sergeant Slaughters. Like I said, they're on their 4th one since this one, so that would be the 5th one. And I think that might cover all the vintage variations of Sergeant Slaughter. If I'm not mistaken, there was the USA mail away, the Triple T, the Desert Camo, the Sergeant Slaughter's Marauders version. Oh, there's one more. The I think it's Fort America Sergeant Slaughter that also came out, if I'm not mistaken. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vintage figures, and they've done 4 during this run. One of the ones that they did for this is actually a O-ring homage with the Triple T Cup Transformer collab. So that doesn't really count as classified, but it's been done during this time frame. So then we'll only have 3. This version, the Sergeant Slaughter Marauders, and the new Desert Fatigues version. So there's room for a couple more Sergeant Slaughters. So you may get that. You may get your wish, Bobby World. Depends on what the contract for Sergeant Slaughter is, if they may do that or not. I'm not sure. But I would say no. I would say yes, because he's a very good ambassador for this brand. And when this came out, they had him on Pulse. They did an interview and they talked with him on it and stuff like that. So he's a very nice guy. So there you go. I hope they do more Sergeant Slaughters, because that'll get people the opportunity to get more Sergeant Slaughters. All right, so we're gonna put him aside for a minute. Gonna put him over here. Don't get upset with me, Sarge. All right. So we're gonna start opening some of these accessories to put on him. Let's see. We have. There's nothing in that. That package had nothing in it. I don't know what was supposed to be in there, but maybe it was his gun. I had taken the gun out already, so maybe that's what's supposed to be in there. All right, so now we're going to go to the next package. I should say his rifle, not his gun, right? His rifle. Let's see what this is. All right, so this is his glasses. Now that's cool. Now glasses do not stay on these figures very well, but there's some deco, some silver deco to make them like sunglasses. So there you go. I don't want to lose them. I'm going to try and put them on his head because we're going to put his cover on after, once we get to his cover there. All right, so there you go. Sergeant Slaughter's glasses. I'm going to try to keep that from falling off. There, glasses. There. All right, so then we go to his baton and his dog tags. That's on this one here. There. So we're going to open that one up next. There. His baton has a little gold deco on the tip. It's brown with a little black deco, so it's pretty good. They got 2 or 3 color deco hits on that, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to put that aside, and then we're going to get into his dog tags. There, we have his dog tags now, and we're going to try and put those on him, and hopefully they won't fall off. There. Gonna hold his glasses on as well. Well, his glasses kind of came off, but I have them still, so I didn't lose them. So we're gonna put that on there. All right, so we have his glasses, we have his dog tags. Oh, that's not his dog tags, that's his whistle. That's his whistle with a little bitty gold deco on that whistle, so we can do his drill sergeant stuff. At ease, disease, he would say, or maggots or whatever. Right, and then we're going to open up our package, Cobra and Joe packaging, that art there. Let's see, put that over there. And see, I'm hoping inside here we have his cover. There's lots of stuff in here. Let me make sure I got everything and I didn't drop anything. Nope, I got everything. So I'm going to put his package over there. So first off, we have his cover. That's the number one thing. There's his cover, brown. He's got a little bitty gold Sergeant deco on there and a little black strap around the bottom brim of that. So let's see if that will stay on his head without falling off. Let's see. I hope so. Yep, I got it on there, and it is Sergeant Slaughter. Yay! We got his cover, we got his whistle, we got his glasses. So he looks like Sergeant Slaughter, right? All right. So I'm going to swap out one of his hands because I want one of his hands to have the baton, and I'm going to have one hand have the pointing finger, because Sergeant Slaughter is not Sergeant Slaughter without a pointed finger. And then he's got several other hands. He's got a gripping hand, a pointing hand, Eddie's disease. He's got another pointing hand. There. He's got another gripping hand. And then he's got two hands where he grabs you. Two like grabbing hands. They can throw bats and stuff like that. And then he comes with a micro G.I. Joe figure, Sergeant Slaughter. Look at that little micro G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter with some art packaging by Hector Garrido and everything. A little mini figure in there with the G.I. Joe logo and the Fireburst on the back. And he's got the stars and stripes on the back of the package. That is so awesome that they did a miniature micro Sergeant Slaughter figure, because he was a figure, he was a toy. So they did a toy of him. So I think in the locker is where I put the gun. Let's see, I'll get that out. I put his gun in the locker. And then there are two little doodads that come with him. There's a weapon cartridge that can go on his gun. So we're going to stick that in his gun. Now, like I said, the vintage Sergeant Slaughter's did not come with a gun at all, but this one does. All right, so I got that on there, put that down, and then he comes with this little thing. I'm not entirely sure what it is. Maybe it's binoculars, maybe it's a spyglass or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Let me look at my gun and let me see if there's some place for that. Yeah, there's a little place for that to go here. I think it's a spyglass for the top of his gun. Let's see if I can get it to go on there. Click in there. I'm not sure. Not entirely sure. So that's something I'm going to have to fiddle around with, because I'm not having very good luck with it. Yeah. So I'm going to put that aside because I don't want to lose it. It's a small piece. Put his gun there. So so that's all the cool. Bobby World. Another figure I wouldn't mind seeing in the classified line would be Sergeant Savage and his Screaming Eagles. Yeah, I think it would be awesome to get Sergeant Savage in the line at some point. Hasbro Pulse team, Lenny and Emily and them have said there's nothing off the table. So I think there's a possibility we could get that. So I'm going to take one of his hands. Hopefully I don't lose any parts on him. I'm going to take one of his fists off. I'm going to put a gripping hand so he can use his baton. And then I'm going to take his other hand, his other fist hand, and I'm going to put his pointing finger. Because I think his pointing finger is more iconic. There. So now he can say, "Give me 100 push-ups, you maggot." Then I can give him his baton, because he's a drill sergeant. So you want him to have that there. So he has his pointing figure and his baton as a drill sergeant, G.I. Joe drill sergeant. So he can yell at Falcon, "You better give me 100 push-ups, Falcon." So then his gun is there and his little miniature package. So it's a good thing he has the locker to put all these cool things in, because we would hate to lose all this stuff, because he's got a lot of extra stuff for this figure. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a lot of the stuff in his locker. He's got a really beautiful blue locker, a lot of deco on that. The stars and stripes, of course. So I'm going to put all of his extra hands in there. And I'm going to put that little black doodad thing in there. I'm going to put his gun. I'm even going to put his little G.I. Joe package, Sergeant Slaughter, in there as well. I'm going to put that back there. There. And we're going to try to stand him up. Hey, Lone Dragon. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. All right, so I got to be very careful. I don't want anything to fall off of him. So I'm going to try to put him on a stand so I can stand him up. All right, so I think we got him on the stand, and we got everything on him that we're going to get on him. There. So there's your Sergeant Slaughter, classified first figure. Now he's got a lot of cool elements to him. He's got some knee pads, which I don't think the original had knee pads. They're designed to look like they're wrestling knee pads, so they look really cool. He does not have elbow pads. He's got like boots, but they look like wrestling boots, like he did in the mail away version. He's got the white belt like the mail away. He's got a deco, camouflage deco on the pants like version 2, the Triple T version. He's got a gold little deco belt buckle. He's got the wristbands, but they're black. They're not red. He's got the black tank top. And that's pretty much it. But he looks really, really, really cool. Anyways, I think they did a good job for this first figure. They kind of hit it out of the park for it. And I'm very, very happy about that. So, like I said, I'm going to probably get my one that I have Adam Riches signed on. I'm going to probably get Sergeant Slaughter to sign that next time I see him, so I can have both of them on that. I usually don't get figures signed by people, but because I already got the art signed by the artist, might as well get the Sergeant Slaughter signed too, to sign it as well. And he probably would sign it for me because he's really a really cool guy. So there's our Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe Classified number 53 review. You guys got any comments about Sergeant Slaughter? Have any of you guys met Sergeant Slaughter? Any stories you would like to? Oh, hey, Lenny Honda. Thanks for joining us in the chat. We just pretty much got finished with Sergeant Slaughter number 53, and I was asking if anybody had met Sergeant Slaughter and they have any stories of Sergeant Slaughter that they would like to share about him. He's a really, really nice guy, right? Then there's the Cobra Clutch coin you can get if you get the Cobra Clutch in person. He puts you in the Cobra Clutch. And then he's going to be at Joe Fest 2026. He's been announced as probably one of our first guests that we've announced already, because he's like basically part of the family. He's going to be at Joe Fest every year. Let's see. He's also part of the Hall of Fame, the G.I. Joe and the Wrestling Hall of Fame. I'm trying to think what else I can say about Sergeant Slaughter. There's several really good documentaries. There's there's an A&E documentary that's very candid about the history of Sergeant Slaughter, where he came from and his family and everything, and it touches on everything. It's a really, really, very touching documentary. It made me kind of tear up a little bit. Lenny Honda. I need to meet him on my. He's on your bucket list. Well, Joe Fest 2026, Lenny Honda, is your opportunity. Um, Lone Dragon, I want to meet him as well. You ever met him either, Lone Dragon? Boy, Lenny Honda and Lone Dragon, you guys are missing out. I hope you guys can go to Joe Fest next year. You should try and put that on your to-do list for next year. Figure it out and come, because I would like to meet you guys as well. And then you guys can meet Sergeant Slaughter and me. Not that I'm that important to meet, but I like to meet people in person, and I'm a fairly friendly person. So I would love to talk with you guys and say hi and stuff like that. So, I think it would be a fun time. Joe Fest is like the preeminent worldwide GI Joe event. People come from around the globe to Joe Fest, and you guys would have an excellent time if you came. There's so much stuff to do. You met Weird Al Yankovic? Yeah, I met him too. He's actually going to be on a show in a couple of weeks here in Florida again. So we may go and meet him a second time. He's a fun guy, Weird Al is. There's got to be shows where you guys are, and you can talk to the people that run the shows near you. I don't know where you guys are coming from, Lone Dragon, Lenny Honda. You can talk to those promoters that do those shows and ask them to get Sergeant Slaughter. So if you can't get to Joe Fest in Augusta, Georgia, maybe he can come to a show near you instead. So talk to your people up there that do your shows in your vicinity, in your neck of the woods, and see if they can get Sergeant Slaughter out. It would be an incredible draw of people, because every year at Joe Fest, he's got a line out the door. He's been there the last 8 years going, and he still has lines because he's such an awesome guy. A lot of people meet him multiple times. Do you go to any other shows? Yes, I do. I do. I go to Kentuckiana, which is in Kentucky, outside of Louisville, Kentucky. I've done Toylanta, Joelanta, which are both in Atlanta. I do the shows here in Florida, the Dirty South Meetup, which will be in December. And I have my own show that I'm starting this year. It'll be in April. It's called the Scent Flow Joe Show. That's in Central Florida. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I've been to a lot of other shows too. I've been to Dragon Con. I've been to Heroes Con. I've been to MegaCon. MegaCon's right in my neck of the woods. I go every year. Tampa Bay, SuperCon, a lot of local shows I've done in Florida. I live in Southwest Virginia. I have no car or friends. Oh, you have to have some friends, Lone Dragon. That can't be accurate. You're such a cool person online. I haven't met you in person though. Southwest Virginia, that's not that far from Georgia. Maybe you can get an Uber or something to Augusta. That's what, 4.5 hours, Southwest Virginia to Augusta, Georgia. It's not too far. Rent a car. Rent a car if you can. But yeah, I would love to see you at Joe Fest. Let's see. Favorite non-Joe line. Don't mean to get off topic. My favorite off Joe line? That's a good question. Let me see. My favorite off Joe line. Probably Star Wars. I have probably as many Star Wars toys, figures, and comics, and the movies and DVDs and merchandise for Star Wars that I do of G.I. Joe. So I will say Star Wars. But I am a huge Masters of the Universe fan and a fairly large Transformers fan, and I love a lot of stuff. So it's hard to pick between your children, right? As they say. So thank you for asking, Lenny Honda. Lone Dragon, I have no friends that are into nerd stuff. Well, it sounds like you need to make some new friends, Lone Dragon. To me, there's so many people out there. Let me see. There's I'm trying to think. There's CollectorCon, I think, in Carolinas. Um, that would be fairly close to Southwest Virginia. Um, Collector Fest, I think, and Heroes Con are not too far. Charlotte, North Carolina, is that far from West Virginia? I don't know. Um, and on the other side, you have Alabama, the Alabama Comic Expo, which is going to be actually the same weekend as my show in Alabama. Um, and I know people that go to that. So there are a few shows in your vicinity, I think. I'm not sure. There's a couple shows in Tennessee as well. I'd have to do some research to see if there's any shows in West Virginia or not. Lone Dragons, but I'm not entirely sure. But there's plenty of opportunities. There's got to be some local comic shows in your area that you can go to that are just one day shows and stuff. We got a lot of those type of shows, toy shows, comic shows in the Florida, Central Florida area. There's at least one almost every weekend here in Florida. So there's got to be other stuff in your area as well. You got to go onto the Facebook. Your what is it, your neighborhood Facebook groups and see, or go to the events Facebook groups and search West Virginia and see if you can find some toy shows in the West Virginia area in the toy events, the events group on Facebook. So there's always stuff on there if you go on your Facebook and check that out. So there's a little bit of stuff you could do to research to see if you can find something for your area, Lone Dragon. But I still would love to have you at Joe Fest anyways, regardless if you go to other shows. Um, I really wanted to go to the last Big Lick Comic Con. There you go. But my ride canceled. 80s TMNT voice actors were there. Bulk and Skull and Maurice LaMarche were there. Yeah, they do a lot of shows. That's the thing. A lot of these guys are doing a lot of shows. Fan Expo. I think there's a Fan Expo in Tennessee, and there might be one in either North Carolina or Virginia, and they get a lot of voice actors there. So it's hard to do all the shows. There's one in Florida in a few weeks that I'm going to be going to. I'm going to meet the cast of Dallas and the Bionic Man and Bionic Woman, the $6 million man and Bionic Woman. I'm going to try to get 2 photo ops with them if I can manage it. I don't know. We'll see. But that's in a few weeks, the end of September. So there's a lot of opportunities. Do some research, figure it out, and get out there and talk to people. Wear your G.I. Joe shirts. And people that are GI Joe fans will come up to you and they say, "Hey, cool shirt," or whatever. Different merchandise. You can also get GI Joe merchandise. Your backpacks. I have this really cool GI Joe backpack that I wear, and there's a lot of different apparel, GI Joe apparel you can get. Wear your apparel, and then people that are GI Joe fans will be like, "Hey, that's a cool shirt, cool backpack." I have people doing that all the time at different shows, and I don't always go to GI Joe shows. I go to, like I said, MegaCon, Dragon Con, SuperCon, Heroes Con, and so on and so forth, Fan Expo, Tampa, and so on. And people always talking to me about GI Joe. So that's how you put yourself out there as a GI Joe fan, and then you meet new fans that are GI Joe fans, because there's a lot of new collectors out there that are getting into the classified line that have never been into classified before or GI Joe before, that are now getting into this and going back and getting vintage stuff. There's a couple people in the chat here that are doing that. So there's ways to do that, Lone Dragon. So don't give up. Don't despair. There are people out there that you can meet, and I wish you the best of luck. Okay. Um, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Sergeant Slaughter is one of the coolest guys, like I said, and I really wanted to do this review upright for Sergeant Slaughter. I've done an interview with Sergeant Slaughter. I don't think it's on my channel. I think it's on my Facebook page. So if you want to see my interview with Sergeant Slaughter, go to my um, David T. Allen Facebook page. My interview with Sergeant Slaughter will be up on there, and you can go to Matoys. You can go to G.I. Joe Renegades, G.I. Joe Ara, vintage or modern. And you can also find that interview on there. If you type in David Allen and you go down my threads, you might be able to find my interview with Sergeant Slaughter. It's a very good interview. Sergeant Slaughter is really cool in that interview. I'm going to probably do another interview next year sometime before Joe Fest. So you can look forward to me doing that in the future. It'll be actually be on this channel. I wanted to get him before Joe Fest this past year, but I wasn't able to work out the dates with him and stuff like that and the scheduling. But we're going to do it next year. I already talked to his agent. And he already agreed to it. So I want to get more insights into the mind of Sergeant Slaughter and stuff like that. And I think you guys would find that really cool. So we're going to be going back to the old packaging now. If you remember when I said a while back, a few videos back, the packaging is up and down and all over the place for a little while until they settle on one package design. And so then we will settle for a little while, and then we'll move on to a new package design. But yeah, we're still going to be going all over the place with the packaging. So the next one goes back to the old packaging for a little while. And then we'll go into another vintage package and then go back to this design package and then a special package. And then after that, we have we go back to the old packaging again for a couple more figures. And like I said, it's all over the place for a little while. But the next one, we're going to go back to our exclusive Tiger Force theme, exclusive to Target. So we get into a couple more of those figures, and you could probably figure out who the next one is, and that's 45. I kind of gave a hint as to who this character is a little while back when I talked about my Iron Grenadier Rowdy Piper. And that's another thing. Now I have a Rowdy Piper figure and a Sergeant Slaughter figure. So I can do a little bit of a wrestling match with the two of them. That was one of the most enjoyable things about the modern era New Sculpt era, where they did the exclusive Rowdy Piper. I've not been able to get the San Diego Comic-Con version of him yet, but I really want to get that. That's one of my grails that's on my list to get. But I love the fact that they did that as a real life character and they introduced him as an Iron Grenadier Cobra character. I think that was awesome. That's actually interesting thing. Who do you guys think would make a really cool live action G.I. Joe character today? I know a lot of people have said John Cena or The Rock, but let's get out of the realm of wrestling. Who else do you think would have made a really cool? Oh, that actually gives me a little bit of insight. We were originally going to get a Rocky Balboa figure, and I can talk more about Rocky Balboa when we get to Big Boa, because there's a whole situation with the two of them. But Rocky was going to be a drill sergeant at one point, and they had to pass on Rocky Balboa and Sylvester Stallone as a G.I. Joe because he was trying to double dip. He did I think it was Galoob Rambo figures. I think it was Galoob that was doing the Rambo figures, and he was trying to do G.I. Joe with Sylvester Stallone, and so Hasbro didn't care for that, so they didn't do Rocky Balboa as a G.I. Joe, and that was going to be fun. So they did eventually reveal that was coming out, because in the Order of Battle series during the 80s, it's like a who's who or a Marvel Universe handbook type of thing for G.I. Joe, the Order of Battle handbook. They showed Rocky Balboa before they were supposed to, and so that was revealed as the drill sergeant for G.I. Joe. And then we got some other real life characters in the 80s. We got the Refrigerator Perry, who was a popular character or a person at the time for the Bears. And he won the Super Bowl and he did the Super Bowl shuffle and he was very well known. What other real life people besides those people, Rowdy Piper, Sylvester Stallone, Sergeant Slaughter, and the Fridge, do you think would make cool G.I. Joe characters as figures or characters? I'm curious to see. Try to stay outside the wrestling realm um, and maybe try to get some interesting people. I was thinking maybe Chuck Norris would be a cool G.I. Joe. Um, oh, Coleco. Bobby World. Coleco was the one that did the Rambo figures. Okay, thank you. I thought it was Galoob, but Coleco. Okay. Um, I think Chuck Norris would have been a cool G.I. Joe. Maybe Jet Li. Maybe Jackie Chan. Wouldn't Jackie Chan be an awesome G.I. Joe martial arts? And he's like part of the Arashikage secretly. I think all those guys would have been really cool. Maybe since they did Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat characters, maybe Jean-Claude Van Damme. Maybe what other cool martial artists? Um, there was a guy that did a lot of movies in the late 80s and 90s. That was a martial artist. He was a really tall guy. He had black hair and he had a ponytail. What is that guy's name? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I think he would have been a cool G.I. Joe character. He's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of who it is. Lone Dragon, need more female Joes. Dolly Parton. You think Dolly Parton, because they had Honolulu, maybe? Dolly Parton would be a cool G.I. Joe? I think that's fun, actually. I think that would be a fun G.I. Joe. I'm thinking maybe Kenny Rogers as the gambler, and then his partner, Bruce Boxleitner, the kid. What was his name? The something kid. Maybe the gambler would have been a cool GI Joe, like a Western GI Joe. Um, I'm trying to think of what other characters that would have been cool GI Joes. You guys got any suggestions in the chat? There's got to be some people you guys can think of. Female, that was a good idea. Maybe GI Jane, the GI Jane movie character. She was a real person. Maybe Jane Goodall, that was the gorilla lady. She would have been a cool GI Joe, like a jungle character with Rakondo. Jane Goodall as a female. Man, these are all good ideas, Hasbro. You want some real life GI Joe characters? There's some opportunities for you. You can get some different gorillas with Jane Goodall, and maybe some of these other characters could have pets too, snakes and different things. Maybe. Trying to think of other cool characters, but there's a lot of wrestlers probably in the wrestling world. Special trainer. Marshawn Lynch, beast mode. Hey, there you go. We do have Big Lob. We never got an actual basketball player, but we're finally getting Big Lob. Bill Murray. Yeah, that would be cool because he's kind of a scientist, right? A Ghostbuster type of character. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Bill Murray as a G.I. Joe. Because there was a lot of comic relief in Sunbow. I think Bill Murray would be an excellent choice. Maybe all the Ghostbusters would be good G.I. Joes. Design them like cool science G.I. Joe guys. Joining Eco Warriors or Airtight and Barbecue, right? I think that's a good suggestion, Lone Dragon. But that's thinking outside the box. I like that. Who else? Who else would have been a really cool real life G.I. Joe? The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio. Oh, Keanu Reeves. You're right. Keanu Reeves, who's in the the that series of movies. I can't think of the name of the series of movies off the top of my head, but Keanu Reeves would be really cool. And I think the Karate Kid would be too. Ralph Macchio, Miyagi could have been a trainer, and Karate Kid could have been like a Quick Kick type of character. That's probably the inspiration for Quick Kick, I would guess, would be Ralph Macchio. I'm almost certain. If I get to meet Ralph Macchio again, I'm going to ask him that. Hey, do you know if the Quick Kick GI Joe was inspired by your character Daniel LaRusso? That's actually interesting. Keanu has done lots of really cool movies that would be good movies to have inspiration to be a GI Joe. I think that was a good choice, Lone Dragon. Um, hmm. Would it be Neo, or would it be the other character from his other series of movies? Because he was kind of a villainous type of a character. He has a code, but he's kind of a Storm Shadow where he has a code, but he's kind of on the in the shady side, right? Uh, Clement, you're in ZA. What's ZA? What's ZA, Clement? Um, Arizona? Is that Arizona, Clement? Are you behind on the chat, Clement? Is that why I'm mentioning you're mentioning where you're from? You're behind in the chat. That happens sometimes. People watch from the beginning, and they're behind on the chat. So there are conventions out there in Arizona, I believe, because Dan Klingensmith has done several shows and he's talked to me about different shows. So there are opportunities to go to shows out there in Arizona. I'm trying to think of other cool characters that would be cool. Huh. Well, I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but you guys did pretty good in the chat. Thank you very much. That's fun. That gives Hasbro a lot of options in the chat to figure out some live action people to do figures of, right? Who's that? Jocko Willenick? Willenick? Who's that? Who's that, Lone Dragon? I don't know who that is. Is that a wrestler or is that a real life person? You know, another really cool person would have been Steve Irwin, the animal trainer and croc trainer, stuff like that. He got impaled through the back by a stingray. Steve Irwin would have been really a cool person to do a GI Joe of. Oh, Jocko is a former Navy SEAL. Now that you say that, real life military guy would have been Army Ermy. He was a drill sergeant, Army Ermy. Also, right? Jocko, he's a famous guy that became fairly familiar in movies and stuff like that. He was in Full Metal Jacket, and then he had his own TV show, and he made cameos in a lot of movies. Army Ermy and Jocko, I'm sure he's gotten stuff too. So yeah, that's cool. A lot of those things, thinking outside the box. I like that. You're in South Africa, Clement? You're watching this in South Africa? Holy cow. Wow, that shows the power of YouTube. I never imagined that somebody was watching my show from South Africa. How is it down there in South Africa? Do you get a lot of classified figures and stuff like that? Wow, it's 2:46 a.m. where you're at. Wow. Why aren't you sleeping? It's got to be really hot down there in South Africa. Do you guys get classified and get all the toys and stuff down there? Is there a pulse in Africa? How do you? I'm curious. I'm fascinated to find out more of how you collect down there. Could. So yeah, I'm curious about that, Clement. So wow. I wonder if there's any other people from around the world watching. I wonder if my friend Zazel's watching. Not everybody joins in the chat. It's the end of winter in the southern hemisphere right now. Oh, okay. So it's cold down there. It's not hot. Gotcha. Well, we're just heading into the cold season now in Florida, but to even say that is kind of like a misnomer. We get maybe 3 to 5 days of cold, and it doesn't really start till like January in Florida. Very close to the equator here. It doesn't really get cold in Florida that much. We do have a few days, like I said, but well, I'm sorry that it's cold down there in South Africa. That stinks. Um, but good weather for the Hasbro Snowcat HasLab, I would say, right? Um, so, but thank you for joining us, Clement. I appreciate it. Watching this in the middle of the night, you must really love GI Joe, and I must be entertaining for you to watch. So thank you. That I appreciate that very much. Um, so if you have any cool questions or whatever you want me to show some stuff off, I'll be glad to give you a heads up on certain things. Since you're down there in South Africa, giving us the privilege of watching the show. Um, let's see, Bobby World. I'd like to see them bring the A Team to Classified. Now that would be cool. I always loved the A Team in the '80s from that generation. To get, let's see, we got Murdoch, we got Face, we got Mr. T, and we got um, George Peppard with the cigar. Um, Murdoch, Face Man. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he used to always say, "I like it when a plan comes together." And they did a really cool movie of the A Team with Liam Neeson, and Liam Neeson just did the Naked Gun movie. I love Liam Neeson. I thought he did a fantastic job. Hannibal. That's right. Hannibal was George Peppard. That's right. You're right. And Mr. T was not Lecter. Not Lecter. Uh, you have Richter's Den Hot Toys Shop. That's where you guys get your toys from. Is Richter's Hot Toy Shop down there in South Africa? And you're able to get classified down there, Clement? Or is it like a vintage toy type store, like a vintage type toy store like we have in the our areas? Or is that like a branded like Toys R Us type of toy store where you guys buy toys down there? That's fascinating to me. I like learning about different parts of the country and stuff like that. I do travel, or the world, not the country, the world. Um, and I like learning about different stuff. And I travel. I've been to Ireland, England, the Bahamas, Canada, Mexico. I would like to go to South Africa sometime. I think that's where Charlize Theron is from, is South Africa, if I'm not mistaken. I want to go to Australia. I want to go to Japan. Those are two of my bucket list travel places that I would like to go to. But is it is South Africa a good place to travel to, Clement? Is it safe down there? Because I'm not sure. I've met people from Africa that I've worked with and stuff like that, and they've traveled to Africa. I'm not sure if they're from South Africa or other parts of Africa. I can't recall off the top of my head. Elon Musk is from South Africa. What is the box with the gold? What box with what gold? What box with what gold? The one up there? That one? That's the San Diego Comic-Con Void Rivals Transformers collab was Jetfire and Celia and Jarek from Void Rivals. That's what that is up there. I showed it off a while ago, and that's the comic with Jetfire. So if that's what you're talking about, that's what that is. The San Diego Comic-Con exclusive set from Void Rivals Transformer collab. So, all right. So, thanks everybody in the chat. I really appreciate it. So, we're moving right along with this. I still got a couple of things I'm waiting on. Oh, I got my Major Blood number 66 came today. So, we're getting some other stuff that's they sent out on the way as well. Snake Eyes version 4 and a bunch of other stuff, and some more Haya stuff is on the way as well. So we'll be doing videos for that stuff. And like I said, I gave some hints as to the next figure. Next figure is 45. We're getting into the Target exclusive Tiger Force again, and you can figure out who that figure is. He's going to be connected to my Rowdy Piper that I showed off a few videos back. So thanks everybody. I love everybody's contributions in the chat, chit-chatting and asking questions. And I also love everybody watching after the fact, asking questions. This was a G.I. Joe video. So we're going to go Eddie's Disease. Yo, Joe. Reader's Den Shop. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and we will see you in the next one. Have a good night there, Clement.